Greetings, comic book friends. Today we're doing another installment of I've Got the Runs, the series where I highlight a run of comics that I have in my collection. It could be a full run of something. It could be part of a run of something. It might be something that has some sort of historical significance or just something that I really like. Before I get into it, I want to apologize if I seem a little I finally got my booster yesterday, and it's no joke. It's no joke. I feel like I have mini COVID. But I wanted to make sure that I did a video today because I wasn't able to do one last weekend. So I'm always thinking of you. So what I'm going to go over today, it's probably one of the biggest runs that I've done for this series, if I recall correctly. I always talk about how much I love alternate history, alternate reality in any sort of franchise that I like, whether it be comic characters or like Star Trek or whatever. I think they're really interesting. It's a way to create some really cool stories without any long-term repercussions, but it can also have some long-term repercussions. We've had some stuff spin out of what ifs before that made their way into more, larger books, mainstream books. So I really, really like these what ifs. So the first volume of What If was 47 issues long. Yep, 47 issues long. One thing that they do sometimes, they do this more in volume 2, which I'm currently working my way through, is a lot of times if a story will feature some sort of event that a writer or is known for, that writer will write that story. So for example, and I think it's volume 2, there are a couple of Punisher books, and Chuck Dixon writes those. He's very well known for his Punisher stories. So they do that more in volume 2. And it's been a while since I read volume 1, so I don't remember exactly what all these are. But that's okay because they're fun just to read. Or you can read it and enjoy it, and that's fine. If you don't remember, it doesn't have any long-term effects usually on the universe. So let's go through these. They are in varying conditions. For the most part, I got them to read. I just wanted the run, but some of them are pretty good. Some are kind of beat up. So What If Spider-Man Joined the Fantastic Four? This is What If number 1. This is probably one of my better copies in this run, just because it's the first and I love What If so much. I also love Spider-Man, so it was important to kind of get this in a nicer looking grade. Number 2, What If the Hulk Had the Brain of Bruce Banner? This actually happens a couple times, which is kind of fun. But this is oh, come on, camera. This is a what if story, all about that. What if the Avengers have never been? What if the invaders had stayed together after World War II? These are fun. I love invader stories. If the market wasn't what it is today, invaders was always a thing that I thought about getting a full run of, just because I like the idea of the invaders. And I mean, it's got Namor in it, so of course I'm going to be interested in it. But I always love it when invader stories pop up. Another really nice thing about what ifs, there's a lot of stuff that has happened in Marvel history, and this is going back to the early 80s. And there's a lot of stories that these books spin out of. What if, let's see, probably get to one at some point. But it's like, what if this happened in this comic event that you may not have read, I may not have read, but at the beginning of each of these, the watcher kind of sets the story up. It has a little bit of exposition where it's like, in the world you know, this is how things happen. And it's a nice little history lesson for some of those things that, like Atlantis Attacks. I never read Atlantis Attacks. And one of these is like, what if something different happened in Atlantis Attacks? And I was, in reading that what if, I got a little background on Atlantis Attacks, which was kind of cool. So number 5, what if Captain America hadn't vanished during World War II? What if the Fantastic Four had different superpowers? I can't remember. There's a lot of times when they'll split up stories. This might be 4 separate stories, or it might be... No, I think this was all one story, just with different sets of powers for them. Because I remember Reed became just a floating brain for whatever reason. What if someone else besides Spider-Man had been bitten by the radioactive spider? This is also something that has happened. There have been other what ifs with this. So this is 3 separate stories. What if Flash Thompson? What if Colonel John Jameson? And what if Betty Brant? Now in Volume 2, there's actually another what if that has Flash Thompson getting bitten by the spider, and it's different. He's a super jerk, to be expected. But sometimes they split these into multiple stories in one issue. What if the world knew that Daredevil is blind? I also like just going through these just like for the covers. It's fun. What if the Avengers had fought evil during the 1950s? So, what is this? We have Rom, 3D Man, Venus, Marvel Boy. Is that Rom? Oh, it's the Human Robot. The Human Robot. So if there was an Avengers in the 50s, apparently 3D Man was in the 50s. I didn't know. This is another one of the big issues in this series. What if Jane Foster had found the hammer of Thor? I don't particularly get the obsession with this issue. At some point Jane did become Thor, but it wasn't this Jane. She didn't find the hammer of Thor instead of Donald Blake. So it's not really that Jane Foster. So this is a really good looking copy, but there is some problems on the inside that I was okay with. Like, it made it decent looking, but fairly cheap. And I don't think this particular issue is worth spending any real amount of money on as a key, because I don't agree that it's a key. But I mean, the market decides, right? So I was able to find a nice looking version of it for fairly cheap because of some problems that are going on the inside of it, and that's good enough for me. 11, what if the original Marvel bullpen had become the Fantastic Four? So this is pretty fun. Let's see, we have Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, I don't remember who else. Flo, I think Flo was like a secretary or something. I don't remember who the other one is, but it's the Marvel bullpen getting the Fantastic Four powers. A lot of times they'll do just kind of weird, quirky stuff like that instead of more serious stuff. 12, what if Rick Jones had become the Hulk? So, I mean, this is a fairly low-hanging fruit of a what if, because he almost did become the Hulk, or at least almost got hit by the blast. But what we know now of the Hulk, it probably wouldn't have played out like this, as we know that Bruce Banner's becoming the Hulk, when he's gamma irradiated, he becomes bigger and stronger. Is sort of a repercussions of him being afraid and feeling weak because of his father. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if it would have been Rick Jones, he would have got bigger and stronger. Something else may have manifested, but who knows. What if Conan the Barbarian walked the earth today? This one was kind of fun. Some wizard in Conan's time zaps him to the present day, whatever the present day of what was then. So it's a fun one. What if Sergeant Fury had fought World War II in outer space? It's kind of Is that a kind of a different one? I don't remember. I don't remember what this was about. I don't remember how they got in space for World War II. But he's there. Dum-Dum's there. The Howling Commandos are there. So something happens, and there's aliens now. First Star Wars, then Battlestar Galactica, and now Nick Fury in space. 15, what if Nova had been 4 other people? Another 4-for-1 story where different people get the Nova powers, and like, what if this character got the Nova powers? What if this character got the Nova powers? This one, so out of what ifs, this is one I'm surprised that doesn't go for more. Number 16, what if Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu, fought on the side of Fu Manchu? And the reason that I think that, or that I'm surprised that this doesn't have more value, is because Marvel never reprints this issue because of its portrayal of Asians. Fu Manchu historically has been portrayed very like old-time stereotypically, and that's the case in here as well. So Marvel does not reprint these, reprint this issue. So if you get like the collected edition of What If, it's 1 through 15, 17 through whatever. They don't reprint 16, and I don't think they have it on Marvel Unlimited. Would make sense. I meant to check on that before I started this, but I forgot. But I'm pretty sure it's not on Marvel Unlimited. So it's something that you can only get. The only way you can read this is by having the original issue. It's not reprinted. It might have been reprinted at some point, but I know they don't reprint it now. But because of that, it's surprising that it doesn't have a little more value to it. Not because of what's in it is good, just because if you want to read that issue, if someone wants to read that issue, then it's a little harder to get. You have to get the real deal. Number 17, what if Ghost Rider, Spider-Woman, and Captain Marvel were villains? This is another 3-part story. Each one talks about if they were a villain. 18, what if Doctor Strange were a disciple of Dormammu? There's a lot of Doctor Strange love in What If. Very rarely do you get some of these characters. They're wanting to sell books. They have to sell it as, it's not part of canon or whatever, so they put a lot of their big characters in there. You get a lot of Spider-Man, a lot of Fantastic Four, a lot of Avengers in those, because they have that sort of eye appeal on the shelf. Whereas, this, don't get me wrong, I love these characters, but back then they weren't the highest selling characters, so they want to make sure to put stuff on there that had high sellers. What if Spider-Man had never become a crime fighter, so he stays in the entertainment business? What if the Avengers fought the Kree-Skrull War without Rick Jones? So this is what I'm talking about. Like Kree-Skrull War, this happened before I was really into comics, so I never read it, but it gave a nice background. What also is nice, there's a lot of Hulk and Rick Jones stuff, and I had forgotten how important Rick Jones is to the Marvel Universe. Obviously, to the Hulk, he's a key character in the Hulk stories, but he showed up in Avengers a lot. I believe he lived at Avengers Mansion for a while. Like, he was friends with all these superheroes and had a significant role in some of these events. Another good thing of reading these what ifs, it made me realize how important he is. What if an Invisible Girl of the Fantastic Four married the Submariner? Man, I don't remember how this one played out, but I do remember it being really, really good. I remember this being one of the best ones I read up to the point. But I love Fantastic Four and Submariner, so it's not a huge surprise. What if Doctor Doom had become a hero? This had to do with, I think, Mephisto attacking Latveria. So he was against Mephisto and kind of became a good guy. I think in the end he still had like selfish means or selfish reasons. What if the Hulk had become a barbarian? Another thing that happened with World War Hulk. I think this is No, he doesn't go back into Conan's time. Ugh, I don't remember. Though I think this issue has a backup story. I think that's the first appearance of Spider-Man, who showed up in Edge of Spider-Verse. Not Edge of Spider-Verse. Whatever the animated Spider-Man movie was. It's not Edge of whatever. Yes. It's the first appearance of Spider-Man. Aunt May as gets bit by the radioactive spider. I don't think they call her Spider-Man, but it is that character dressed in that way with like the cooking hat. So I think this is sort of a, when that movie blew up and everyone's like, oh, I'm going to get the first appearance of Spider-Man Noir, and all these others. Yeah. Spider-Man. Don't forget Spider-Man. Was she in that, or am I thinking Edge of Universe? Or Edge of Spider-Verse? I don't know. She showed up somewhat recently. Number 24, what if Spider-Man had rescued Gwen Stacy? Something happens. I don't remember. And it's been a long time since I read these. And I read, I sat down and I read, not all at once, obviously, but I pulled them all out. And when I read a run, I usually read the entire run. Unless it's something big like Spider-Man or Hulk, I'll break it up a little bit. But this one I read all the way through. And I'm doing the same with Volume 2. Though I took a break from What If before I started Volume 2. You can only take so much. I will say that some of these, there is a lot of exposition. There's a lot of explaining because they have to describe basically a whole new world in a single issue. And these are oversized issues, but it's still just an issue to have this whole nother event or thing happen and be able to get squeeze enough out of it for it to be interesting. So it's very, very wordy, even for this time. The Watcher shows up a lot and spits a lot of dialogue at the beginning and in between things to kind of set the stage for stuff, so they didn't have to waste pages with that. So if you're okay, it's a fun read. I suggest everyone do it for a number of reasons, but just know what you're getting yourself into. It does take a while. It's very wordy. 26, what if Captain America had been elected president? The first time we see X-Men, which is surprising. Number 27, what if Phoenix had not died? If I remember correctly, horrible things happen. I think she basically takes over the world, if I recall correctly. Some of these are fun. What if Daredevil became an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. with a backup of what if Ghost Rider were separated from Johnny Blaze? 29, what if the Avengers defeated everybody? Number 30, what if Spider-Man's clone lived, which he did? So it's always fun to see some of these that this actually happens. It may not happen in the way, it usually doesn't happen in the way that happens in the what if, but it's fun to see hey, this did actually happen. Spider-Man's clone did live. This is another one that goes for a little bit just because of what it's about. And not an exorbitant amount, but what if Hulk killed the Wolverine? It's Wolverine, it's related to Hulk 181, so there's more demand for it, which I understand. And then a backup story here. We're getting into more backup stories. What if the Fantastic Four had never been? A lot of bad stuff, right? Because, and I don't remember exactly what was in this one, but if you think about it, without Fantastic Four, Galactus has eaten Earth, so bad. 32, what if the Avengers had become pawns of Korvac? Another one with great background. I really hadn't read or didn't know much about Korvac, so this gave me some background on that character. So that was good. Had a double issue. What if Dazzler had become a Herald of Galactus? Weird. And what if Iron Man was trapped in the time of King Arthur? And I don't remember, if I remember correctly, these ones weren't very good. All right, so this is one of the weird ones. What if 34? If only I could violate my sacred trust and again meddle in human affairs, I would save you from this. The Marvel Universe has gone crazy, and the alternate realities will never be the same again. I think this is just a bunch of, like, short, weird what-if stories. If I remember correctly. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different artists in here. You can tell right away what you're getting yourself into. Because there's multiple versions of the Watcher. Because the Watcher and that's what's kind of fun. Like, the Watcher usually never looks the same, because he's looking into alternate realities. It's not necessarily our Watcher that is looking at this alternate reality. It could be some other Watcher from another reality that's looking at this alternate reality. Let's see. Fred Hembeck. There's that style. I don't know what else he's done. It's a very recognizable style, though. Yeah, these are like very, very, like, these are literally 4-panel stories. It's just one of those different sorts of issues where a bunch of stuff. What if Howard the Duck formed his own super team? Here's ones that are just like, what if Cyclops' energy beams came out of his ears? And it's just like, well, that's it. Just a picture of that. So they would do goofy stuff from time to time. They did that in Volume 2 as well. It was no different. What if Elektra had lived? Number 35. 34, what if the Fantastic Four had not gained their superpowers? So this Fantastic Four, just like as normal people, but they still, like, the same stuff still happens. But I mean, also a great homage cover there. What if the Beast and the Thing continued to mutate? Also something that happened to both of them, if I recall. They didn't mutate. Well, Ben kind of mutated in this way. But the Beast continued to mutate, but he became more cat-like. But that did happen with the backup story of what if the Silver Surfer lost the power cosmic. This one doesn't say exactly. It's a 2-part story, or 2 stories. What if featuring Daredevil and Captain America? Oh, it's 3, plus Vision and the Scarlet Witch, but it doesn't say what the actual story is, or stories, I should say. Let's see. Does it say? Looks like Scarlet Witch is getting old. Yeah, it's not giving a, like, what if Sharon Carter had not died? That's the Captain America one. The Scarlet Witch one isn't giving a title, so I can't remember what it was, and I won't be able to know again unless I sit here and read it, which I'm not going to do to you. This is probably bad enough. And, Daredevil 2013. So Daredevil in the future. Okay. Which also happened. Daredevil was in 2013. But apparently, back at that time, we just really needed to know specifically about 2013. What if Thor battled Conan? I think in this case, Thor went back to Iberia. Another Doctor Strange, 40. What if Doctor Strange had not become the master of mystic arts? This is Mordru. If I remember correctly, Doctor Strange doesn't get in the accident that hurts his hands. So he doesn't seek out the Ancient One. And Mordru is the one that's there and becomes Sorcerer Supreme. And bad things happen. What if Submariner had saved Atlantis from its destiny? So I think this is the Atlantis Attacks issue. What if the Invisible Girl had died? Yeah, I don't remember. Something to do with Annihilus. I think she sacrificed herself in some way. Then we can start getting into these painted covers, which are super cool. What if Conan was stranded in the 20th century, which, I mean, is not much different than the what if Conan was in the world today. So they kind of double dipped on that one, which seems weird. What if Captain America were revived today? I think this, if I remember correctly, this is multiple stories, and it's during different decades. So what if Captain America was revived during the 60s, 70s, 80s, and now? If I recall correctly, I could be wrong. I might be wrong. He definitely becomes a piece of propaganda. He goes back in. Yeah. Yeah, maybe I was thinking incorrectly. But I do love these painted covers, especially this next one. Holy crap! This is such a good cover. What if the Hulk went berserk? So good. That cover is so good. With that black. Oof. Man, such a great Hulk cover. And of course, Hulk goes berserk all the time. Number 46. What if Spider-Man's Uncle Ben had lived? I think he doesn't fight crime, because that was this whole thing, right? Was what triggered him into fighting crime was feeling guilty about Uncle Ben. Well, Uncle Ben knows who he is. No, he still fights some crime. I don't remember the details of this. I think he kind of gets pressured from Uncle Ben to use his powers for good. And the last one, what if Loki had found the hammer of Thor? We're back to one of the beautiful painted covers. That's just great. Loki just having Mjolnir. So that's it for all of Volume 1 of What If. There was also a one-shot that came out between Volume 1 and Volume 2 that I just threw in here. What if Iron Man had been a traitor? So I think in this, he still gets captured, but he ends up working for whoever it is that captured him. I don't recall off the top of my head. But that's it. A real hearty run. Because of as I said, because of the time that it came out, and Bronze Age books already being quite a bit more verbose than they are today. In addition to all the additional exposition that happens with these books, they do take quite a while to read. It's hard to sit down and read a handful of them, just because they take so much time, and there's a lot to think of, because it's introducing a whole new universe, which is fun and what I love about them. But keep in mind, if you're wanting to jump into it and read it, it's a series that I don't think is too hard to collect. Again, there's number 1, number 10 is probably the most expensive one, and then the What If Wolverine Had Killed the Hulk, I think, is probably the third most expensive. As you get towards the end, they get tougher to find. They get a little tougher to find and are a little more pricey, just because the print run had gone down a bit. But it's definitely, I don't think it's the worst run to put together. And it's definitely worth reading, and a lot of fun. So that's it for this run. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of this format. And I read this a while ago, so I couldn't go into too much depth with what happened in each one, because each one is a completely different story. I can't remember all of them. So just kind of doing, I suppose, a cover gallery sort of thing, flipping through them and talking about the things I do remember, and about the series in general. If that is interesting to you. If not, let me know, and I'll try to limit that type of content. But if it is fun, if you do like just seeing the covers and chatting about them a little bit, then let me know as well. And then I definitely have plenty of runs of things where I can do that sort of thing. So let me know, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and of course, don't forget to make yours Titan. This video was brought to you by Titan Comic Pressing. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Titan Comic Pressing LLC.